Hello. Feeling quite ill today. Got the lurgy. Got the throat sore, tiny aperture with painful edges. Food can't go through. But anyway, today I think I'll do a Marxist video. Or I think I don't know whether Marxists in the past, whether people have noticed this conflict. They probably have because it's quite evident. But Marx talks about how capitalism is full of these contradictions, of these mutually opposed interests. And one of these that I've noticed is the one between savers and spenders, right? In any economy, one person's spending is another person's earning. So if everybody were to save, nobody would have any money to save, right? And on an individual level, on my own level, for myself, for my own well-being, for my own interest, it is wiser for me to save, not to buy luxury goods and all that kind of stuff, like expendable goods, because that's just a waste of money. And there might be a time in the future when I need that money for something more necessary. So it is wiser for me as an individual to save. So you have this kind of, but it's not good for the economy as a whole for people to save. Because if everybody saves again, there's no money to be earned. So there is this conflict of interest between two levels of the economy. The level of the economy of the individual and the level of the economy of everybody. And it's like in times when people are feeling confident in the market and feeling confident in the economy, they spend a lot because they believe that they can replace what they spend quite easily later on. And when they're not confident concerning the economy, they save more. But what that does is it causes the economy to slump more. And so there's this inherent instability within the very system itself. I just thought that's an interesting little point. Another point, right? I've been reading this book, Financial History of the World and the Ascent of Money. I'm not sure if I actually agree with this guy's kind of zeitgeist, if you will, his kind of perspective and moral feeling, or kind of, what would the word for it, his judgment of a lot of these economic matters. But it's been interesting because I was curious about how interest rates are set, right? And they say the Federal Reserve sets interest rates and all that kind of stuff, but really it's a bond market, and so I'd heard that somewhere, and I was like, well, how does the bond market set interest rates? And so I was looking for this kind of mechanistic thing, which is if you're looking at a car engine and you want to know why one bit does something, you can look at another bit and say, that has this cause and effect, this necessary causal chain between that bit of the car and that bit of the car, and that's why that's happening. And I was looking for that within the relationship between the bond market and interest rates. And all that I found in that book was that I think it's a specific bond, like government treasury bonds. And so, which is essentially the government or a state borrowing money. That's what a bond is. So, say I've got £1,000, I can give that to the government, and it will give me a bond for £1,000, and that will mature, say, in 10 years. And after those 10 years, I get £1,000. But during those 10 years, I get an interest on that bond every year. So, say if I get a bond at £1,000, and the interest rate is 1.5%, then I get I think it's £15 or £150 a year, one of the two. But another thing about these bonds is what they have. They have a thing called a face value and a market value, because there's a bond market. So once the government's issued these bonds and I have a bond, I can go and I can sell this bond to another individual. And the price that the bond will sell at is a kind of measure of the trust that the bond market has in the capacity of the state to pay the interest rate back, the interest rate and the principal back after when the bond matures. So So if the bond market doesn't have much trust in the state, it will buy, say, £1,000 bond for £500, but the interest paid on that bond is fixed. It's still the same as if the bond were £1,000. You know, so it's still going to be £15 or I think 150. I think it's £15. 10 times 10 is 100 times. Yeah, it's £15, I think. So that stays fixed, and what that means is then, in real terms, that interest rate becomes whatever the fixed yield is over the actual bond, the sale price of the bond. And so it can increase interest rates that way. And I think what the book claims is that because the government or the state is the most trustworthy borrower, as the interest rate, the real interest rate on these bonds increases, so normal private borrowers have to pay a premium to kind of offset that, to kind of say, well, like me, Chris Jack, you're nowhere near as reliable a borrower as, say, the government is. So if the government's having to pay this bloody high rate of interest, you're going to have to pay an even higher rate of interest. But it's artificial. It's not. It doesn't have to be that way. It's just something. It's more of a social phenomena rather than a kind of physical, mechanistic phenomena. Anyway, goodbye. That's just me rambling and getting my head around stuff. Goodbye.